All right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being in the meditation and becoming still and receptive and open. That's really beautiful. So the next part that we are going into, so to speak, is then the mystical eye. And I think I sent you the synopsis too. So that's one of the PDFs that I sent the first time. And it holds almost like a condensed summary of the Mystical Eye book of Joel. And it's very useful, like I said in the beginning, is for contemplation. And this is exactly what I would love to do with you, like to use these to stand still with some of the expressions that are in there. And I just go by chapter. So from every chapter there will be like one expression that I love to share. And we'll see how far we come. No, we don't have to do anything, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm going to show you that. You have to look at your screen in order to see this, of course. So here's the booklet. So does that seem familiar to you? If you didn't get one, I'll send it to you now, or later, by email. In the next email that I'll send out. So here's a synopsis of the principles, and it is compiled by Sane, who's here. Sane, thank you for that. It's really great. So every chapter has a summary, so to speak. Great expressions that really are, important to take a look at. So one of the very sweet expressions that I love to read here for you is this, and it's famous in the book too. You'll see it in the original book. I close my eyes and gently within myself say the word I, silently, sacredly, and secretly. I always keep that I sacred and secret within myself, and then watch how my life transforms outwardly. My last thought at night is, thank you, Father, for the I that abides in me, and for my oneness with all that you are. Then all that I am becomes my experience. All that I have becomes mine. All my peace becomes mine. So I stop here and go on a little bit. So this is like it becomes my peace, and the my peace is then my experience of peace. So this is completely related. In fact, the whole Mystical Eye chapter is related, or the whole book is related to your experience of wholeness. Your experience of the truth of who you are. So it is like by repeating these words, it is more like coming into a receptivity and an openness and a request to feel, to come into the experience of the connectedness with my core I, so to speak, with that what is true about me, that what isn't made but what is always there, that what is eternal. And that is good to realize, in reading this book in the first place. But that's also why we say why it's so useful to use it in a healing group, because everything is always related to, your connection with the core of your being. Your experience of your direct communication with God, with the glimpses that you receive, with the moments that you are overwhelmed with gratitude, or suddenly have a graceful moment that's like, wow, I had no idea, I have nothing to do with it, but it just came to me. So it's like you start to say experience light episodes, of grace episodes, if you want. To me, that's the same, and so that's the discovery that is, say, present here for you, that is being offered in every chapter of this book. And if you read it like that, then it becomes like, yeah, that's so beautifully said. That's so great. It is almost like the eye is what you breathe. That's what you breathe in. So you think that you breathe air, but that's not true. You know, in that sense, it is not true. So it's when you become receptive, then you see that it is a light that is moving through your system, that is bringing you to life. And that has nothing to do with the oxygen that you seem to be, say, breathing in order to survive in this existence. So that shifts automatically with the experience that you're in. That is really an opportunity. So the focus here then is on the I. I love that. So it's like, this is where you go back to all the time. It's like, oh yes, wait a minute. The I in me, the I in me. I want to connect with the I in me, the infinite I that is always present, always with me, that sustains me, that supports me, that directs me, that, you know, that, yeah, helps me, if you want. It's like, it supports me. And so, great expression, great practice. And Joel says, that's the last thing I do before I go to sleep. It's the first thing I do when I wake up. It's like connecting with the I. So in our meditation, we were, of course, doing the same thing. We're doing that too, connecting with the I. Be still, be still. Listen, 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 listen. You know, it's like there's a whole universe out there that you can connect to. And you're a whole part of it, with every aspect of it. You're in communication with every aspect of this infinite universe. There's also an expression that I really love. So this is another I expression. Here it is. I need only abide with this inner word of truth, and I will be preaching in the silence to all who are receptive. My responsibility lies in so living this truth that I demonstrate it, and that is all. From there on, I, my divine consciousness within, knows my need and leads me to my rightful activity and the way in which I am to go. To the extent of my realization of I am about my Father's business, whether in this life or what the world calls death. I am never separate from the I of my being. So this is another great expression. I need only abide with this inner word of truth, and I will be preaching or demonstrating in the silence to all who are receptive. Like, it's not really preaching that you do, but it's more like you start to demonstrate this. My responsibility lies in so living this truth that I demonstrate it, and that is all. Like, it becomes a second nature, or my first nature. I don't have to think about how to do that, in other words. So that's really, really wonderful as an expression. You know, you don't have to think in how to do this. No, it's literally, you shine it through yourself. Like, this is literally shining through you, like it is, the light is coming through you in the realization of the connectedness. And that's just a given. You don't have to start a mission, start preaching on the corners of the street in order to convince everyone around you. We did all that, and look what happened. So yeah, we don't have to do that any longer. So this is a matter of you receiving it. In your receptance of that, you start to shine it, because it is an amazing experience of release, that you don't have to do this world, so to speak. You don't have to suffer this world. You don't have to suffer the ideas that you were holding on to or carrying with you in your not knowing who you are. That's all gone. So the freedom of that is your face starts to shine automatically. You don't have to do anything for that. But it's really like in your release is your demonstration. By continuously letting go, by allowing the I to come to you, like literally to manifest in you, in your consciousness, that will do it. That will do it. Then everything starts to look different. And see, you might think like, okay, so once that happens, that's always like that. Like in a certain sense it is, but it is you remembering this that brings this about. So you will forget, and you will return back, and you will forget, and you will return back. In your forgetting, you can still be in darkness for a moment, but you have your memory somewhere. You recognize, oh yeah, wait a minute, I forgot about the I. I can always return back to the I. So here I am, letting that come to me again, open my consciousness for it. And fears, be still. My mind, be still. You know, that's the practice. That is the way we do that. So I'm staying in this practice of doing that and allowing a, say, on a daily basis, a release of self-identity as an dying daily. It's a release of self-identity. No, I'm not the thing I made of myself. No, I'm not this past person, this past entity that is walking on a timeline from birth to death. Like, that is over, that's gone. I literally die in that idea. I allow myself to be released from my self-built image. Once you recognize I, God, as the identity of yourself, you will recognize it as the identity of mother, father, husband, wife, child, sister, brother, friend. And then there is no fear of releasing them into their God identity. All fear for them goes. The Master never meant that you have to abandon your family, but merely urged you to go up higher in your awareness of what constitutes your family, and ultimately realize that God is your family. Thus the love between all of you is greater. The bond is also greater, and the need or dependence has gone, because each finds fulfillment from the divine center within. So that's a very short paragraph. In order to come to the depth of what it actually says, it's like that can easily be like years of process for you. Like if I look at myself, that was years of process, seeing my family aright, so to speak. That was a humongous trajectory. It was not just like that, okay, that's clear, boom, 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 and ready it is. Like, no, we're talking here about recognizing yourself in the paradox that you apparently seem to be living in that you know that, say, God is in you. You have experiences of communication, and the next step is that you actually don't know how to deal with your family. That's more like my experience. I didn't know what to do with my family. I know they are like the Christ is in them, but the paradox was that I had to deal with them on a daily basis, and I had no idea how to do that. So that the things that are happening then is in a kind of interesting, like the things that are happening then. If you stay not in an say not in an attack mode, but in a receptive mode, is that you stay with your core experience of yourself and give to your relationships, if you want, you know, and you see that changes will take place, and that not everything might be the same, because you're no longer you can no longer play your role as you did. Like, you released that identity at the same time too, and you can still do things, of course, but my experience is that everything changed in that. So I don't know how to respond to any of it anymore. I don't know how to behave as a dad, or how to do this, how to do that. That took a moment for me to integrate again. So, and also discovering my spiritual family, the ones that I had a connection with, and still like have a connection with, that is not of this place at all, but recognizing that that's a dynamic family in which you have a recognition, and having a great moment of joining and sharing, and yeah, joining is the best word I can find. And in the next moment, it might be that you never see each other again. In that freedom, kind of freedom, you meet just exactly in that moment, and then who knows? Like, it's not up to any kind of definition any longer. So that is interesting, and yeah, that is unexplainable to a human mind. But if you have the experience of coming into your say direct communication with God, and see that everything changed for you, that becomes the way that works, and in a sense, you know, that's the way that works. So it's not under your definition anymore, it's not under your control. It is literally giving up the dependencies and the laws, social laws that are connected to it. Well, I don't know how that is for you, but for my personal experiences, that is turning everything upside down. And so that's not anything to be afraid of, because it works exactly right with what you can handle in a certain sense, but it can be overwhelming, absolutely. So that's why I say, like, you read one paragraph, but actually it can be your personal process for years in order to come to see this aright. Like, it's not something that you can just take over. It's like, okay, Joel said this and doom, and that's it. That's the way it works then. Like, well, your own experience is what this is all about. Like, I don't know how this was for Joel. Would love to talk to him about it and read more about it. I'll read it one more time, so then you know what I'm talking about. Once you recognize I, God, as the identity of yourself, you will recognize it as the identity of mother, father, husband, wife, child, sister, brother, friend. Then there's no fear of releasing them into their God identity. All fear for them goes. The Master never meant that you have to abandon your family, but merely urged you to go up higher in your awareness of what constitutes your family, and ultimately to realize that God is your family. Thus, the love between all of you is greater. The bond is also greater, and the need or dependence has gone, because each finds fulfillment from this divine center within. Okay, so I move through to the next expression. Here it is. I is always the divine selfhood, the creator, the word that is in the midst of you. To recognize it is to live the way of prayer, entering the inner sanctuary of your own being to commune with God. The Holy of Holies is your own consciousness where you find God, tabernacle with Him, speak to Him and hear the voice of God, all within yourself. This is really lovely. So this is really beautiful description of the I. I love that. Let me see. Oh yeah, so this is fun to read. So you realize there is more to you than you can see in the mirror, because there is an invisible something that is the most important part of your life and being. This invisible part is the source of the visible. So that is not so easy to read either. Like, this invisible part is the source of the visible. That can be very confusing. So this visible part, this invisible part is the source of the visible. Like, wow, then we're talking about a realized, awakened mind. That's where that counts for. It's like, when you come into an experience of your connectedness, of direct communication with God, you can say that. It's like, whatever I see out there is a reflection of what comes through as the light and love that I am in my experience of my connectedness. Up to that point, it is you in the sense of the human you, the ego you, that is actually generating these images, putting them out there and receiving them back. It's like that is that part, and that has nothing to do with a God mind. It's like it is projecting outward, receiving it, and might even see it as something outside of itself. So of course in your awakening you learn to distinguish, like you learn to see that, oh yeah, wait a minute, it is a reflection, it is not a fact. There's nothing outside of my consciousness, so it must come from me, like it starts right here, and that takes place. So only when my mind is completely open and at rest, say awakened in the truth that is, I literally say extend the light directly, or that goes through me as being an instrument of God, being open and receptive to that, and having nothing in the way to let that occur. Then I shine that light, say, into my world, into this world, and get that reflected. And then I see in everyone my dearest friend. Like, yes, of course, there's no objection. Of course I see the Christ in him. Coming from my whole mind, I can literally discover the truth of everyone involved. I can literally see you, something that I couldn't do before, because I was cluttered in my mind with ideas about what you are, what your position is, what your gender is, what your political party is, what your, what your clothing is, all these distinctions that you make in the human perception of one another, seeing someone as an object outside itself instead of completely wholly connected as one. So that was not so easy to read, but we got it. So I'll read it again. You realize that there is more to you than you can see in the mirror, because there is an invisible something that is the most important part of your life and being. This invisible part is the source of the visible. When I'm in my awakened mind, wholly in communication with the core of my being, yes. So chapter 6. This is an interesting one too. God is being, but not a being. God is being you and being me. To set up a God separate from that being produces this sense of separation of entity, identity, or being outside of us, which keeps us in ignorance. That personalizing of God, I, is the veil that brings about human sense of separation from God. The personalization of spirit is the veil. See, these are great. These are great to contemplate and come to the deep understanding in this, but also to go beyond the understanding of this. Because that's the thing with understanding. The trouble with understanding is that you're using your mental capacity to get it. So where this is about, it is not gettable. You will miss it if you try to get it. So, but it can get you, and that's a different story. It can completely get you, and that means you can come into the experience of what it says, and that goes beyond understanding, and it goes beyond perception. So that means like it goes beyond the things that you see, the things you distinguish, compare, analyze, and all this, like all these attributes have nothing to do with coming to an direct experience or revelation of what this actually says. See, that's really important to remember when reading such a text. Like Joel speaks here from his awakened mind, looking at things and puts it on paper, and it is edited and compiled later on out of his talks by someone, I don't know exactly, Lorraine Sinclair, but she did a lot of that. So I have no idea how she looked at this. If it comes from wholeness, then it's great, but it's very condensed, like it's very, very little words are used. And that can be very confusing, and that's not necessary. So that's why it's good to take time to let this be revealed to you, so that you say disengage your understanding and go beyond it. And because this is where the grace is, this is where the miracle can occur, literally the miracle of the recognition of actually hearing what it says. That goes beyond your understanding, because your understanding is made for a place that does not exist. So that is, that's good to know. That's why I wanted to just share this, because the Mystical Eye book, like I got it too, like the Mystical Eye book, it is not so easy to read. It is not so easy to read. It is like you got to be, say, right on the edge of your seat in order to hear what it says. And of course I speak for myself. Yeah, absolutely. But it is a great book. There's a lot in there. But in order for you to hear it, it is really like, don't read too much. Read a specific part and wait until it actually tells you what it means. Then I think you use the book well. And that's the same with the synopsis that Saint made. It's like so great to have this so concentrated. It's like, okay, these are the pearls that we have to share. Make sure that you're completely receptive to receive this, because what is in there will change your life forever. In that sense, it is life changing. There are literally being some changes made when you hear it. So don't think that you know what it says. If you think you know what it says, you missed it. So that's the the fine print. That's part of that is a necessary part of the book. Like read the fine print. Really like that.